The morning started like any other Tuesday. Rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office, creating rivulets that distorted the view of downtown Seattle. 15 years of building my consulting firm from the ground up had earned me this view, this office, this life. My company, Strategic Solutions, specialized in corporate restructuring and fraud prevention. The irony of what was about to unfold wasn't lost on me. I was deep in quarterly reports when my assistant Janet knocked on the doorframe. She'd been with me for 8 years, long enough to know my routines and quirks. "Mr. Henderson, the Amex statement came in early. You wanted to review all charges over $5,000 personally." Always. I built my reputation on attention to detail. Every expense, every receipt, every transaction crossed my desk before approval. It's how you catch problems before they become disasters. It's how you maintain the trust of Fortune 500 clients who pay premium rates for absolute reliability. The statement was unusually thick. I flipped through the first few pages, recognizing the usual business expenses. The Fairmont Olympic for the Morrison restructuring account. Dinner with the Peterson Group at Canlis. Flights to Chicago for the Williams consultation. Standard office supplies from Staples. Then I saw them. Restoration hardware. $18,453.67. West Elm Corporate. $12,891.45. Pottery Barn Trade. $9,764.32. Design Within Reach. $8,937.21. CB2 Commercial. $6,847.93. The charges continue for 3 more pages. All residential furniture stores. All purchased last weekend while I was in Portland closing a Whitman deal. All authorized with my corporate American Express card. All completely unauthorized. I felt that familiar cold clarity wash over me, the same feeling I got when I discovered embezzlement in client companies. My pulse remained steady. My breathing didn't change. But something Arctic settled in my chest. Numbers don't lie. People do. I reached for my phone and dialed my sister's number. She picked up after 2 rings, her voice bright and musical in that way that had charmed teachers, boyfriends, and loan officers for 31 years. "Alex," perfect timing. I was just arranging the dining room set. "You absolutely have to see this place. It's like something out of Architectural Digest." "We need to talk, Melissa." Her tone shifted slightly, picking up on something in my voice. "Oh God, you sound so serious." "Look, if this is about Mom's birthday party next month, I already told you I'd handle the flowers. You don't need to stress about every little detail. I'm coming over. Now. Right now. But I'm expecting the art delivery, and then I have that yoga class at 3, and cancel it." I drove to Melissa's new apartment in Belltown, the kind of trendy building where a 1-bedroom cost more than most people's annual salary. The lobby gleamed with polished concrete and steel accents. Modern art hung on walls that probably cost more per square foot than my first apartment had cost per month. The doorman, a middle-aged man in a crisp uniform, recognized me from previous visits. "Good afternoon, Mr. Henderson. Miss Melissa is expecting you." She is now. As the elevator climbed to the 15th floor, I rehearsed the conversation in my head. Stay calm. Gather facts. Document everything. Don't let emotion cloud judgment. The same approach I used with corporate investigations. The elevator doors opened to reveal a hallway lined with expensive wallpaper and designer lighting. Melissa's door was already open when I stepped off the elevator. She stood in the doorway wearing black yoga pants and an oversized cashmere sweater that probably cost more than Janet's weekly salary. Her blonde hair was pulled back in what magazines called an effortless bun that actually required 40 minutes and 3 different products to achieve. "Welcome to my palace," she announced, sweeping her arm dramatically. "I've been dying to show you what I've done with the place." I stepped inside and immediately understood where $50,000 had gone. The living room showcased a sleek gray sectional sofa that could easily seat 8 people. The leather was buttery soft, the kind that came from Italian cows raised specifically for luxury furniture. A glass coffee table the size of a small dining table dominated the center of the room, its surface reflecting light from a chandelier that looked like a modern art installation. "What do you think?" She bounced slightly on her toes, waiting for my approval like a child showing off a drawing. It's very nice. I walked slowly through the space, taking mental inventory. The entertainment center was a wall-mounted unit in dark walnut that probably required a team of professionals to install. Abstract paintings hung on walls painted in that particular shade of white that only expensive apartments achieved. Not quite cream, not quite gray, but something that required a name like Misty Dawn or Cloud Whisper. Nice. Alex, this is incredible. I finally have a place that matches who I am. I've been living like a college student for too long. A woman needs to surround herself with beautiful things. I continued my circuit of the apartment. The dining area featured a table that could seat 6, surrounded by chairs upholstered in fabric that looked like it came from a European fashion house. The kitchen boasted a marble island that belonged in a magazine spread, complete with pendant lighting that probably cost more than my car payment. How did you pay for all this? I kept my voice neutral, professional. Her smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. What do you mean? The furniture, Melissa. $50,000 worth of furniture, according to my credit card statement. How did you pay for it? She recovered quickly, the smile returning full force. Oh, that. Well, you know how I am with money. I've been saving up for months, living like a monk, eating ramen, skipping dinners out. Finally decided to invest in quality pieces that will last forever. I pulled out my phone and opened the Amex app, turning the screen toward her. With my corporate credit card. Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, as if she'd genuinely forgotten. Guilt, quick and fleeting. Defiance, jaw setting in that familiar way. Then something that looked almost like relief, as if she were tired of pretending. I knew you wouldn't mind helping me get started, she said, settling onto the expensive sofa like it was a throne she finally claimed. Besides, successful people share their wealth with family. It's what Dad always taught us. There it was. The entitlement that had defined our relationship for 31 years. The assumption that my success belonged to both of us. The complete absence of accountability wrapped in family obligation. I sat down across from her in a chair that probably cost more than most people spent on furniture for their entire apartment. The leather was so soft it felt like sitting on a cloud. You stole my credit card. Stole is such an ugly word. She waved her hand dismissively, her new manicure catching the light. I borrowed it. Temporarily. I'll pay you back when I get my promotion at the gallery. You used it without permission to make personal purchases totaling $53,000. That's theft. Alex, come on, we're family. It's not like I bought drugs or hired assassins or something crazy. I bought furniture, beautiful quality furniture that will appreciate in value and last for decades. I studied her face, looking for any sign that she understood the gravity of what she'd done. Any flicker of remorse or recognition of wrongdoing. There was nothing, just the same self-satisfied expression she'd worn when she borrowed my car in high school and returned it with an empty gas tank and a dent in the bumper. How did you get the card number? You left it on your desk last month when I stopped by the office to take you to lunch, remember? You were in that important meeting with the pharmaceutical company and I had to wait in your office for like an hour. I got bored and started looking around. I saw the card just sitting there, and I took a quick picture with my phone. I wasn't planning to use it immediately, but then I found this place and the furniture was having this amazing sale. And you know how these things work in this market. You have to move fast or someone else gets the good stuff. The casual way she described it made my stomach turn. She'd been planning this for weeks, waiting for an opportunity, calculating how to steal from me while I sat in client meetings, working to build the business that funded her lifestyle. You realize this is corporate fraud? Federal charges. I could lose my business license over unauthorized corporate expenditures. She laughed, actually laughed, throwing her head back against the expensive cushions. You're being so dramatic. It's family money anyway. When Dad retires and sells the business, we'll inherit everything together. I'm just getting my share a little early. Think of it as an advance on my inheritance. I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. Dad retired 2 years ago, Melissa. I bought out his shares. The company is entirely mine. Her laugh died mid-note. What? Strategic Solutions belongs to me. Every asset, every account, every decision. Dad has no ownership stake and never will again. But he said. Dad said what he thought would keep you happy. The same thing he's been doing since we were kids. The same thing that taught you that consequences are optional and other people's money is yours to spend. I watched her process this information, the realization that her safety net wasn't as secure as she'd imagined, that the family business she'd counted on inheriting was already gone. But instead of apologizing, instead of showing any remorse or understanding, she doubled down. Well, that's even better then. You can definitely afford to help your sister out. 50,000 is pocket change to you. You probably spend more than that on a single client dinner. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of 15 years of enabling her behavior. You're right, 50,000 is manageable for me, but theft is something else entirely. Corporate fraud is something else. Using my business assets for personal gain while putting my federal contracts at risk is something else entirely. Are you threatening me? I'm stating facts. She stood as well, her voice rising to match her growing panic. I can't believe you're making such a big deal about this. I'm your sister, your only sister. All I did was buy some furniture to make my life a little nicer. Is that such a crime? Yes, Melissa, literally yes. What you did is multiple crimes. Oh, please, you're not going to call the police on your own family. You're not that cold. I looked around the apartment one more time, at the thousands of dollars worth of art hanging on the walls, at the custom window treatments that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, at the evidence of calculated theft surrounding us. I nodded calmly and replied, sharing is caring. I left her standing in her perfectly appointed living room, surrounded by the evidence of her crimes. The drive back to my office gave me time to think, time to plan, time to remember every lesson I'd learned about dealing with people who thought rules didn't apply to them. Back at Strategic Solutions, I called my lawyer. Richard, it's Alex Henderson. I need to report corporate credit card fraud. Internal or external? Family. There was a long pause. Richard had handled my business affairs for 7 years. He knew about Melissa's various financial disasters, the student loans I paid off during her master's program, the credit card debt I covered when she was finding herself in Europe, the car payments I'd made when she was between opportunities. How bad is it this time? 53,000 in unauthorized personal purchases, premeditated. She photographed the car without permission and planned the theft over several weeks. Jesus Christ, Alex, you want to pursue charges? I want to explore all options. You know I have to ask this. Are you absolutely sure you want to go down this road? Family cases get incredibly messy. The emotional toll alone. I looked out my office window at the city below. Thousands of people working honest jobs, paying their own bills, taking responsibility for their choices, living within their means and building their lives through effort rather than theft. She called it sharing, Richard, that successful people share with family. I'll start the paperwork immediately. That evening, I called my parents. Mom answered on the second ring, her voice warm and welcoming as always. Alex, how are you, sweetheart? We haven't heard from you in weeks. I'm fine, Mom. Is Dad there? I need to talk to both of you about something important. Of course, honey. Let me put you on speaker. I heard the familiar sounds of my childhood home, the television playing the evening news in the background, Dad's newspaper rustling as he set it aside, the comfortable sounds of routine and normalcy that had defined my early years. What's on your mind, son? Dad's voice carried the weight of 67 years and 35 years of running his own small business before selling to me. Melissa used my corporate credit card to buy $53,000 worth of furniture for her apartment. Silence stretched across the phone line. I could picture them looking at each other, trying to process the information. Alex, Mom said finally, her voice careful and measured. Are you absolutely sure there wasn't some misunderstanding? Maybe she had permission that you forgot about. She photographed my card without permission while I was in a client meeting. Then she planned and executed multiple fraudulent purchases over several days. When I confronted her, she told me successful people share with family. Well, Dad cleared his throat, the sound gravelly and uncomfortable. Maybe you two could work something out between yourselves. A payment plan or some kind of arrangement that doesn't involve. Dad, this is corporate fraud. Federal charges. I could lose my business license. 15 years of building this company could disappear because my sister decided she deserved expensive furniture. But you won't actually press charges against your sister, Mom said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of absolute certainty based on 33 years of watching me enable Melissa's behavior. I haven't decided yet. Alexander David Henderson, Mom's voice carried the full weight of maternal authority, the tone that had ended arguments and settled disputes throughout my childhood. That girl is family. She's blood. You don't turn your back on blood, no matter what. She turned her back on me the moment she decided to steal from my business. It's just money, Dad interjected, his voice carrying the dismissive tone I'd heard my entire life whenever Melissa's actions caused problems. You'll make more. You always do. Just money. The same phrase Melissa had used, the same dismissive attitude toward the thing I'd worked 15 years to build, sacrificing relationships and opportunities to create something meaningful. It's not about the money, Dad. It's about trust. It's about respect. It's about the law. The law? Mom's voice rose to near hysteria. You're talking about sending your sister to federal prison over furniture? Over things that will sit in her apartment and make her happy. I'm talking about consequences for choices. I'm talking about accountability for actions that could destroy everything I've built. The conversation deteriorated rapidly from there. Accusations flew like weapons. Voices rose to shouting levels. Old grievances surfaced with surgical precision. Mom accused me of being cold and calculating. Dad suggested I was jealous of Melissa's happiness. They both insisted that family loyalty trumped legal obligations. By the time I hung up, I understood exactly where Melissa had learned that rules were optional and consequences were negotiable. The apple, as they say, doesn't fall far from the tree. I spent the next 3 days researching federal fraud statutes and reviewing my company's insurance policies. The deeper I dug, the clearer the picture became. Melissa hadn't just stolen money, she'd jeopardized everything I'd worked to build. My company carried multiple federal contractor licenses. Any fraud conviction involving corporate assets could trigger immediate reviews and potential license suspensions. 15 years of building relationships, establishing credibility, creating value for clients, all of it at risk because my sister wanted a designer sofa. Thursday morning, my lawyer called with disturbing news. Alex, I've been reviewing the credit card statements with forensic accounting. The situation is worse than we initially thought. How much worse? Your sister didn't just steal the card number. She somehow accessed your online banking and credit accounts. The furniture purchases triggered multiple fraud alerts that were manually overridden using your login credentials. I felt the blood drain from my face. She has my passwords. How would she obtain that information? I thought back to her office visit last month. Melissa had arrived 30 minutes early while I was in a crucial client meeting. Janet had seated her in my office to wait, assuming I'd be out within minutes. But the meeting had run long, leaving Melissa alone for nearly an hour with my unlocked computer and my password manager open on the screen. She had unsupervised access to my office computer for an extended period. Alex, this changes everything. If she accessed your corporate accounts using stolen credentials, we're looking at identity theft, wire fraud, computer crimes violations, and potentially charges under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. This isn't simple credit card theft anymore. What's the timeline for federal prosecution? For something this documented and clear-cut, the prosecutor could file charges within 2 weeks. That afternoon, Melissa called. Her voice was different, smaller, less certain than I heard it in years. Alex, I think we need to talk again. About what? I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday. Maybe I was too casual about the whole situation. Too casual. Not wrong. Not criminal. Not sorry. Too casual. Where would you like to meet? Could you come here again? I'm having some art delivered this afternoon, and I need to be here to sign for it. More purchases. Even now, facing potential federal charges, she couldn't stop spending money she didn't have on things she didn't need. I drove back to Belltown, this time with a digital recorder in my jacket pocket and a detailed list of questions in my briefcase. The doorman nodded as I passed, but his smile seemed forced and uncomfortable. Melissa's apartment looked dramatically different from just 2 days earlier. A massive dining table now dominated the space near the windows, surrounded by chairs that looked like they belonged in a European castle. Art hung on previously bare walls, not prints or reproductions, but original paintings with gallery tags still attached. Persian rugs defined seating areas with geometric precision. You've been busy, I observed, calculating the additional costs in my head. She followed my gaze around the room, her hands fidgeting with the sleeves of another expensive sweater. Just a few finishing touches. The decorating process takes time to get right. How many more charges on my card? Just small things. Accessories, a few pieces of art, maybe another 8 or 10,000. Another 8 or 10,000. Said like it was coffee money. Melissa, sit down. She perched on the edge of her expensive sofa, hands folded in her lap like a child called to the principal's office for the first time in her life. I talked to my lawyer about your situation. Her face went pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. Alex, you didn't actually. Federal prosecutors are very interested in corporate credit card fraud cases, especially when they involve identity theft, computer crimes, and systematic theft from small businesses. Computer crimes. I just looked at your email to see if you'd noticed the charges yet. You accessed my accounts without authorization. You overrode security protocols designed to prevent fraud. You used stolen credentials to approve transactions I never authorized. In federal court, that's multiple felonies. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her manicured hands. When she finally looked up, her eyes were bright with unshed tears that seemed genuine for the first time in our conversation. I never meant for it to get this serious. I just wanted a nice place to live. I wanted to feel successful and accomplished like you, using stolen money. Borrowed money that I fully intended to pay back. Stolen, Melissa. The legal definition of what you did is theft, fraud, and identity theft. The tears started falling then. Real tears, not the manipulative ones she perfected to get out of trouble throughout childhood and adolescence. What do you want me to do? I can't return most of this furniture. It was custom ordered and specifically designed for this space. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to realize that other people's money isn't yours to spend. I want you to face the reality of what you've done. I understand now. I completely understand. I'll pay you back every single penny, I promise. With what money? You don't have $60,000. You've never had $60,000. I'll get a second job, or I'll take out a loan, or sell some of these things, or ask Mom and Dad for help. Mom and Dad don't have $60,000 either, and even if they did, why should they pay for your crimes? She wiped her nose with a tissue, smearing mascara across her cheek and destroying the carefully constructed facade she presented to the world. So what happens now? What do you want from me? I pulled out my phone and showed her the voice recorder app. The red dot had been recording our entire conversation. Now you learn about consequences. Her face went completely white. You recorded me? Without telling me. Every word of our conversation. You can't use that in court. I didn't consent to being recorded. Washington is a one-party consent state. I only need my permission to record our conversation. Everything you just said is admissible evidence. She stared at me like she was seeing a complete stranger. You're really going to destroy my entire life over this. You destroyed your own life. I'm simply documenting the process. I stood to leave, but she grabbed my arm with desperate strength. Alex, please, I'm your sister. We grew up together. I used to help you with your math homework when you struggled in school. I covered for you when you snuck up to see Jennifer Morrison in high school. I was your alibi when you crashed Mom's car and didn't want to tell them. Doesn't any of that history mean anything to you? I looked down at her hand gripping my arm, then met her eyes directly. You also stole my girlfriend's sophomore year of college and my first car when I got my license, and money from my wallet every single time you visited my apartment, and my credit cards in graduate school. This isn't new behavior, Melissa. It's just bigger stakes and federal jurisdiction. That was all different. We were young. We were still figuring things out. You're 31 years old. I pulled my arm free from her grip and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard her voice break completely. What am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to live with this hanging over me? I turned back one final time, looking at her surrounded by the evidence of her crimes. You learn. The federal investigation moved with impressive efficiency. Within 10 days of my initial report, FBI agents interviewed me at my office, meticulously documenting the timeline and gathering electronic evidence. They were professional, thorough, and completely uninterested in family dynamics or emotional appeals. Cases like this are remarkably straightforward, Agent Martinez explained after reviewing my documentation. Clear paper trail, documented unauthorized access, recorded confession. The prosecutor will likely offer a plea agreement. What kind of agreement? Depends on her cooperation level and prior criminal history. First offense with full restitution. Probably supervised probation and community service. But there will definitely be a felony conviction. A felony conviction meant no professional licenses, no government employment, no positions involving financial responsibility or fiduciary duty. For someone like Melissa, who'd never developed practical skills or work experience, it meant a fundamentally different future. My parents called relentlessly during the investigation period, pleading, threatening, bargaining, cycling through every emotional manipulation technique in their considerable arsenal. They offered to pay full restitution themselves if I would withdraw the complaint. They promised Melissa would never contact me again. They accused me of destroying the family over money and material possessions. I listened patiently to each call, allowing them to exhaust their arguments, then gave the same measured response. She made her choice. The morning of Melissa's arrest, I was in my office reviewing proposals for a potentially lucrative new client when Janet buzzed the intercom. "Mr. Henderson, there's a Detective Williams on line 1. He says it's about your sister's case." I took the call immediately. Melissa had been arrested at her apartment without incident at 6:30 that morning. The federal prosecutor was filing charges for credit card fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and computer crimes violations. Bail was set at $50,000. "Will she make bail?" I asked. Unknown at this time, the family is apparently scrambling to raise the funds. That afternoon, Dad called. His voice was strained and aged in a way I'd never heard before. "Alex, we need $50,000 for Melissa's bail. I'm not available for that." "What do you mean you're not available?" "I mean I'm not providing financial assistance to someone who committed multiple felonies against my business. She's your sister, for Christ's sake. She's a federal defendant who stole from my company. Alex, please, you have to understand. She'll sit in jail for months if we can't make bail. Federal cases take forever to resolve. Then she'll experience the justice system as it's designed to work. She's learned her lesson. This whole experience has been a wake-up call." "Has she? What specific lesson has she learned?" Silence stretched across the phone line. Dad couldn't articulate what lesson Melissa had supposedly learned because there wasn't one. Just consequences finally catching up to choices. She'll be destroyed if she has to stay in jail. Then she should have considered that before committing federal crimes. "You're a cold, calculating. I'm a business owner protecting my company from criminals, even when those criminals happen to be related to me." He hung up without another word. 3 months later, Melissa accepted a plea agreement. Guilty to 1 count of wire fraud, guilty to 1 count of identity theft, 24 months supervised probation, full restitution plus penalties, 200 hours of community service, and permanent felony convictions. The federal prosecutor called it an exceptionally generous offer. I attended the sentencing hearing not out of family obligation, but as the victim delivering an impact statement. I spoke for 7 minutes about the risks to my business, the violation of trust that undermined my ability to maintain client relationships, and the importance of accountability in deterring future crimes. Melissa stood next to her court-appointed attorney, wearing a conservative navy dress that probably came from Target instead of the designer boutiques she previously favored. She looked diminished somehow, smaller and more fragile than the confident woman who'd shown off her stolen furniture just months earlier. When Judge Harrison asked if she had anything to say before sentencing, she stood slowly and addressed the court. "Your Honor, I made terrible decisions that hurt my brother and jeopardized his business. I violated his trust and broke federal laws. I take full responsibility for my actions and accept the consequences." Full responsibility. The words sounded strange and unfamiliar in her voice, like she was speaking a foreign language. After the hearing, she approached me in the courthouse hallway. Her face was pale and drawn, aged by months of legal proceedings and the reality of criminal conviction. "Alex, I just wanted to say nothing." "What?" "Say nothing. Your probation officer will contact my office regarding restitution payments. That's our only relationship moving forward." She looked like she wanted to argue, to negotiate, to find some angle that would restore our previous dynamic. But something in my expression stopped her. "I understand." I walked away without another word. 6 months into her probation, Melissa found employment at a discount clothing store in a suburban mall. Retail work, minimum wage, no benefits or advancement opportunities. the kind of job she'd spent her adult life believing she was too educated and sophisticated to accept. The restitution payments arrived monthly like clockwork. $312 automatically deducted from her paycheck and electronically transferred to my corporate account. At that rate, it would take 17 years to repay the full amount plus penalties. But mathematics had never been her strongest subject. 18 months after her sentencing, I received a letter forwarded from my office. The return address was Melissa's apartment, but I barely recognized the careful, measured handwriting. Alex, I know you probably won't read this, but I wanted you to know that I finally understand what you tried to teach me. Actions have consequences that extend far beyond the immediate moment. Choices matter in ways I never appreciated. I can't undo what I did, but I can learn from it and build something better. I hope someday you'll be able to forgive me, though I understand if that day never comes. Your sister, Melissa. I read the letter twice, then filed it with the other case documents in my secure cabinet. Forgiveness wasn't the point of this exercise. Learning was. Growth was. Accountability was. Today, Strategic Solutions is more successful than ever. We've landed 6 major federal contracts in the past 18 months, partly because of our enhanced reputation for ethical practices and fraud prevention capabilities. The irony isn't lost on me that investigating my sister's crimes helped establish my credentials as a financial forensics expert. Melissa still works retail, still makes her monthly restitution payments, still lives in that expensive apartment, though she had to sell most of the stolen furniture to afford the rent after losing her gallery position due to her felony convictions. She learned that designer sofas don't appreciate in value when purchased with stolen money. Last month, my parents called to invite me to Melissa's birthday celebration. A small family gathering, they said. Just the 4 of us, like old times. I politely declined. Some bridges burn completely when trust is violated beyond repair. Some lessons require years to internalize. And sometimes, the only way to save someone from themselves is to allow them to experience the full weight of their choices. But I kept the business cards from the federal agents who worked Melissa's case. In my line of work, you never know when that kind of expertise might prove valuable again. After all, sharing is caring, but theft is theft, regardless of family relationships.